Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a really interesting piece of mid-century history, focusing on the Mississippi-Tennessee border.
Yeah, we're looking at this group often called the State Line Mob. They were active mostly in the 50s and 60s, right there in Alcorn County, Mississippi, and McNairy County, Tennessee.
Okay, so straddling the state line. And our sources, W.R. Morris's book, The State Line Mob, and Janice Branch Tracy's Mississippi Moonshine Politics, they give us the rundown.
They do. They paint a picture of, well, a pretty wide range of criminal stuff. Bootlegging was big, obviously, but also gambling, prostitution.
Sounds like the classics.
Right. But also, like, tourist fleecing, outright robbery, and even murder. It was a dangerous operation.
So this wasn't just some, low-level local problem. It sounds fairly organized, especially along that specific route, US 45.
Definitely. That highway was key. And you have to remember the context. Mississippi was technically dry for a long, long time. Prohibition created this huge demand, this black market.
Ah, okay.
Ah,
So the border location was perfect for that, exploiting the legal differences, maybe.
exactly. It created this sort of jurisdictional confusion, or at least opportunities. Coordinating law enforcement across state lines wasn't always smooth back then. It gave them some breathing room.
Now, here's something I found fascinating. The idea that some members actually came from Phoenix City, Alabama, after martial law cleaned that place up.
That's a really important point. It suggests these weren't just, opportunistic locals stumbling into crime.
Right, they might have had experience.
Precisely. Bringing in people who already understood how organized crime worked could explain how they set up shops so effectively, running multiple rackets.
And they weren't exactly hiding, were they? The sources mentioned them owning businesses, motels, restaurants,
Oh,
clubs.
yeah. Right there on the state line, and also down near Corinth in Alcorn County. These places weren't just fronts either.
What do you mean?
Well, they were central to the whole operation. They generated massive income, hundreds of thousands of dollars, directly from selling illegal moonshine and other contraband right alongside food and lodging.
Wow. So legit businesses masking huge illegal profits. They really leveraged the geography, the laws.
And maybe there are connections, yeah. It shows how these kinds of criminal enterprises can really dig in by exploiting very specific regional conditions. For a while, they operated with, well, a surprising degree of openness.
But it didn't stay just a local issue forever. Things changed in the 60s, right? They ended up getting national attention. How did that happen?
That really comes down to one person, primarily. Their conflict with the McNairy County Sheriff, Buford Pusser.
Ah, Buford Pusser.
Yeah, that name rings a bell.
He took a very public, very determined stand against the mob and their activities. That fight, it really blew up their spot, put them on the national radar.
And that connects directly to pop culture, doesn't it? The Walking Tall movies. Exactly. Those films were based pretty directly on Pusser's fight against the state line mob and, other criminal elements in the area.
It's kind of amazing, really. A sheriff in a relatively small county taking on this entrenched group, and it becomes this big Hollywood story.
It really is. It speaks volumes about how a story of local law versus organized crime could capture the public imagination. That narrative of standing up against corruption.
So just to recap the sources for our deep dive today, The State Line Mob by W.R. Morris and Mississippi Moonshine Politics by Janice Branch Tracy. Really great resources for this.
Yeah, they offer a detailed look not just at the crimes, but the whole environment, the politics, the social conditions that allowed this to happen, and the pushback against it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? When you consider how this specific regional conflict blew up nationally, what other seemingly local stories or struggles might have had bigger ripple effects, maybe inspiring other bits of pop culture we don't even connect back?
That's a great question. There are probably more hidden histories like this out there than we realize.